If this keeps happening, I'm gonna move out of the city for sure, but potentially even move out of the country.
I wouldn't be looking to sort of exploit something that I view as a basic human right.
You're paying more for your bread and food, your gas. Why are you not paying more for your rent and you expect me to fork up that money, right?
I want to pay down my mortgage. I want to, be able to get ahead.
We cannot let the market go to the Wild West.
So, fact, Canadians are struggling to find housing. That's not news to you. It's a matter of affordability and stock. But we do keep wondering, what else is there to the story? To what degree, for example, do short-term rentals contribute to this crisis? Well, the answer may depend what side of the table you're sitting on. In studio, we have a table with Airbnb hosts and renters. We also have Armin Yalnizyan, the economist, backstage listening in. So we're going to have a conversation and try to sort this out. Come with us. Hey everybody, how you doing?
How's it going?
Good. Okay. Christian, Samantha, Shuby, Brendan, thanks for being with us. Can we just start off with a bit of a gut check here? Hand up if you think the answer is yes to the question, short-term rentals are contributing to the housing crisis. Okay. Well, maybe I shouldn't entirely be surprised in that both of you are tenants right now. So, Christian, your body language suggests there's no way you think it's part of the problem.
I have to say absolutely not. I think I'm a landlord and a short-term operator, so I see both sides of the story. I don't think we should be responsible for the housing crisis. 5-6 years ago, when I got into the industry of short-term, somebody said, let's put an Airbnb, make more money. So I got in, and I'm like, oh wow, I was collecting $2,000 in rent. Now I'm making $5,000, $6,000 a month. I'm like, not only am I able to cover all expenses, but have a better quality of life.
And what about the places that you rent out as long-term rentals? Are they going to stay long-term rentals?
For the time being, yes. But slowly I will be converting everything to short-term rentals.
Okay, so how does that land with the tenants in the house here?
It's really hard to grasp the crushing reality of how expensive and limited it is. Like 5 months, I saw every month average rent for places I was looking at go up and up and up and up.
Because you had a bit of a rough go, eh?
Yeah. Everything in our neighborhood was gonna triple our rent, but we had to move out, we were asked to, and we found a place, it was 5 units in a building, in a small building, each 4-bedroom. We actually offered 6 months in advance, $24,000. And despite offering that, we got rejected. We found out the competing bid was a person who offered to lease all 5-6 units. And they're turning it into Airbnb rentals. If this keeps happening, I'm gonna move out of the city for sure, but potentially even move out of the country.
Wow. We're in a situation with housing shortage in pretty much every city across Canada. I don't think you can really afford, least of all the tenants, can afford for any of that housing to be given up to a kind of superfluous cause. I mean, I totally understand it helps you live a better quality of life, but if that comes at the expense of other people being able to afford to live even sort of a basic standard of living, then I think that is problematic.
But why is that Christian's responsibility, right? Like you say superfluous, you might say, hey, that's my income. Why does he have to take that on?
I think at some point it comes down to sort of like personal morals and ethics. I wouldn't be looking to sort of exploit something that I view as a basic human right. Everyone should have a right to housing. For a long time, landlords have done long-term rentals, and it's made them plenty of money.
So I'd like to jump in here, actually. 8 months, I'm going without a tenant paying me rent. 8 months of me paying out of my pocket and my quality of life, where I cannot take my family on vacation, have to stress, work overtime. This is, I think, a big reason why people are switching to short-term rentals, because if you're in an Airbnb and you're past your checkout, your reservation is no longer there. At this point, the police comes, you're trespassing, you're out the same minute.
I feel like you might have empathy at both sides of the table here.
I do. So in Calgary, we have a townhouse that we rent. We have a wonderful renter there, and it gives us peace of mind. Prior to us starting our Airbnb, we had rented it to someone that actually damaged our property and had to put in money to get it back to a regular state. So we thought, you know what, this is a great opportunity for us to try Airbnb. And it really is, it does give us that peace of mind that we are protected when there is a situation that we might not be able to collect from our renter.
We did reach out to Airbnb because mostly it is such a huge player. They maintain that 53% of their hosts are a bit like you, and that they use the platform strictly to deal with the rising costs.
That's it. So with the variable mortgage rates that are going up, the prices go up there, our condo fees have gone up, everything has gone up. So for us to really just be able to kind of have that offset, it's quite a nice advantage.
It is really hard when we think of housing as an investment commodity we distance it from the reality of it, that it's shelter, it's a basic need for people, and we kind of forget the human aspect of it. I think that's a really big issue.
Well, I have to disagree because I try to be as fair and honest with my tenants and everything. If there is any changes, I would give them a good amount of notice, or whatever the problem is, I would talk to them. I wouldn't be just one of those, get out, let's do it. But I'm not sure, you are not more profitable and in a better position because you own a property as a rental property. Even 10 years ago, before interest rate hikes, before prices went bananas,
Then why do it?
Because the long-term growth you're hoping for the long-term growth of the unit. And
So it is a financially
correct,
beneficial thing.
but
Okay.
for you to say that just because you have equity in the house that you cannot refinance or take out, I can have $1 million in my house right now. I cannot take it out because I cannot qualify thanks to the interest rates or whatever. Now, short-term rental has come into the play where people start reaping the benefits of real estate immediately. Our government, again, I don't want to be that guy saying the government, but it's not my responsibility to fix a government job. I pay enough taxes that they should be doing their job. Why don't they decrease the time that a builder needs to wait for permits to build a 50-foot story? Because if that's the case, Toronto was one of the longest wait times around the world, I believe, for them to get permits to build. That's not my problem. Unfortunately, I'm not here for charity.
Well, I mean, we have to figure this out. I mean, in this city, 50%-ish of the population rents. And so with such a low vacancy rate, it's the lowest in this country it's been in some 20 years. I think it's roughly 1% in Halifax.
That's true, yeah. I've been there for around 3 years in the same building. And I know in the time that I've been there, the market price for my unit has effectively doubled. When the most recent landlord took over, he sort of approached me at the beginning and made it clear that his intention was to turn my unit into an Airbnb. And I'm in a 3-unit building. All of the other units are Airbnbs. So absolutely, it's kind of put me in this position where I feel like I have to be an extra good tenant. To hedge my bets, I should, take that little extra step. I take care of the garbage for the Airbnbs that are in I take the bins out and whatever.
I actually think I would never let you go if I had a triplex and you're one of my tenants there that does all that. I would never let you go. I would never jack up your rent and all stuff because I think you're such a massive asset to that building. But on the other hand if you're owning single family homes or condos, when my payment's going from $2,500 to $3,600, condo fees are going up every year, and then property taxes are going up. That just, we cannot expect tenants to say, hey, I've been here for 20 years, so I'm going to pay $900 here. Well, the whole world is moving. You're paying more for your bread and food, your gas. Why are you not paying more for your rent and you expect me to fork up that money, right?
I do want to ask, though, these issues that you have had, would you say that they're a majority of your tenants or a minority?
Lucky. I've had minority. However, damages from tenants and me paying out of pocket has been pretty consistent after they leave the property.
It's just, because I feel like I hear this kind of thing a lot from landlords. I'm not saying there are bad tenants in the world. They're in the minority. And so I think it's kind of blown out of proportion that, I need to use Airbnb as a crutch because every tenant there's too much risk. You're profiting off of this housing. It's a business, the cost of doing business, frankly.
Yeah, but going personally bankrupt because of the minority of tenants is unacceptable in anyone's eyes.
You went personally bankrupt?
No, I'm saying if I didn't have the means to cover the mortgage, guess what? Mortgage goes default, gets on your bureau, you have to declare bankruptcy. So that minority, that one tenant can ruin your life for good.
But I guess
in Canada.
My point is that That hasn't happened to you yet. And it probably won't happen to you. And I don't think that it's because you're using Airbnb, it's because generally speaking, you're in a profitable business model and you're gonna be just fine. I totally get it's not your responsibility to kind of solve all the social woes of Canada with housing. We also should talk about this with some empathy for the people that might get forced out in this way, because in a lot of cases, it's not their fault either, you know?
Okay, so this is where we're almost stuck, and this is where we need some help. So we're gonna take a break, take a breath, and get our meat in, okay?
All right.
You are sucking out stock. You're sucking it out faster than it can be built.
Do you see any model anywhere that offers a solution? Okay, so we've established that we understand the problem here. It's very personal. We need some solutions. We need a reality check. Perfect timing. Armenia Alnesian, help us out here. I know you were listening and watching. What struck you?
How amazingly engaging this conversation is. You all are bringing such an important aspect of something that is a problem for Canadians from coast to coast to coast.
So when you say problem, can you give us a sense of where Canada sits compared to the rest of the world? Like, how big of a problem is housing affordability now?
Well, there are two features that are really quite unique for Canada. Number one is that the Canadian population has grown faster than any other big nation in the last year. It's been just a bonanza of more people coming into the country. And that's great news for a lot of reasons, but really challenging when you don't build housing at the pace that we've been permitting and welcoming people to come to the country. And the second part is that of the 37 richest countries in the world, Canada is ranked bottom of the list in terms of social housing. We have disinvested through governments. I mean, to Christian's point about what is government's role in all of this, in every other country, governments are responsible for building a bigger stock of affordable housing. We cannot expect the market to do all of the heavy lifting on affordability. On the other hand, we cannot let the market go to the Wild West in terms of driving up prices because it's good for you guys. So, like, I'm really torn in these stories, that's for sure.
Well, in terms of short-term rentals, though, I mean, anecdotally, it can feel, if you're a tenant, it can feel like they are adding to the housing crisis.
Do you know, from the time I was first asked to be part of this, and I started looking at the data, we added 2,000 long-term listings in Toronto. That is less than a month. 2,000 new listings have been added to Airbnb. I mean, we're just sucking out. We cannot build fast enough. Your point was we're taking too long to build. You guys are sucking out. You are sucking out stock. You're sucking it out faster than it can be built. We have a problem. In a city like Toronto, where rent went up by 20% for a bachelor unit, rent went up by 16% for 1-bedroom and 3-bedroom units compared to a year ago, those rents would not be escalating as quickly. Just on Airbnb alone, there are 15,000 long-term rentals available today. So if you were somehow, by some magic wand, able to convert some of those into legit long-term rentals, right? A year, 2 years, like people do when they need a place to live, that would add so much stock that it would reduce the pressure on how much rents are rising. So you might be making more money, you might be making more money, which is totally legit, totally understandable, has this ripple effect through real estate markets throughout the country, especially in major markets, but also in secondary markets. So you can see where the tension is coming in, eh?
Yeah, absolutely.
Samantha, did you tell us that in the unit you lived in, you have an Airbnb, but you also have another place?
I have a long-term rental property, which is our townhouse, and then we have our basement suite in our home.
Right, and the long-term tenant, did I get it right that once that person leaves who you like, you see the advantages of moving to Airbnb?
So when we first started, it really was to offset our expenses.
Sure.
And you do see the benefits of it. And I'm not saying that I would evict anyone or so on, but I am looking at I want to pay down my mortgage. I want to, be able to get ahead in a way. And so yes, it would be attractive to do so.
Yeah, I think if it's within your primary residence, I think it's maybe a different story. But I think when it's a secondary property, as a tenant, of course I'm biased, but it's better if it ends up on the long-term market.
when Airbnb was launched in 2007, it was precisely to help people offset their costs and manage who they had in the house and have a little bit more control. It has gone out of control.
Everybody that's been in variable or fixed rates that took it during the pandemic, they better expect a 40 to 50% increase of their payment. We keep forgetting about that. That's the reason why rents keep going up.
100%. And I'm not arguing with you that if the money is there to be made, it's like candy for a baby. Why wouldn't you take it? That's why we need regulations. Brendan is also right. You're a businessman. That's how you're describing what
Correct.
you're doing. You make your money through real estate. That has risks.
Again, this, I agree with you. Why, instead of them raising 3.5%, 4% in a year's time, why do they not raising 0.25% at a time for people can adjust their living expenses and everything?
What are you going
for
to do
rate?
about their wages?
About, again,
Their wages. Like if you do it 0.25% at a time, but their wages don't go up, what are you going to do about it? Look, it isn't somebody else's problem, is my point. It is our problem.
If we can talk about regulation just for a moment, I think if you're reading the news and you may have heard people talk about Quebec, right? Quebec is trying new regulations with Airbnb. But what are those regulations and are they going to work?
So Quebec's new introduction is to make people like Christian more accountable for how he's running his business. He needs to register, and he needs to prove that the people that they're getting are legitimately staying there long term. I have to say, this isn't about good operators and bad operators. There's not enough places for Canadians to live.
I think part of the solution has to be that if we have housing that's planned, zoned, designed, built for housing, that shouldn't be turned into hotel stock.
Do you see any model anywhere that offers a solution?
The only model that exists anywhere, it is in New York City, it is in places like Quebec that is really cracking down, and we could actually bring it further along in a place like Toronto, is to really be much more ruthless about your business model to prevent, like you are right, it's not being regulated and enforced enough. Why are there any multiple listings now? But that is the way we have to go. Sometimes the most absolutely blindingly simple business decision that makes perfect sense for an individual business turns out to be suicide for an economy. It's good for you, it's good for you, it's terrible for them, and they are the future, not you. It's pretty eye-popping.
Christian, Samantha, Shubi, Brendan, Armin, as always, thank you.